Do you need encouragement to turn tragedies into your own triumphant life story? If so, this podcast is for you. Listen to powerful guests who have persevered through challenges so you can gain strength to build your championship life. The host of Professor of Perseverance podcast, Dr. James Perdue.
Hey, come on, it's almost that time of Merry Christmas. Almost. I know they say, James, you're not supposed to date your material because it's almost that time for Merry Christmas, Santa Claus to do his thing. All right. Thank you for coming in for the Professor of Perseverance podcast. I would be Dr. James Perdue. Don't take the doctor as serious and everything like that. I can't write out a prescription for you, but if you need me, I can drive you to your pharmacies if you need me. All right. Today we're going to talk with up in the old our 51st state, as one of our presidents was talking about. Jokingly, I say that. Jokingly, don't be yelling and screaming at me. All right. But her journey goes from bad relationships, obesity, struggled with alcohol, life-altering car accident. And I'm interested in this part. Life-altering car accident that resulted in undiagnosed brain injury. And she was able to triumph self-development, self-actualization, leading to huge success. All right. Welcome to the show, Charissa Halonen. I know I blew it.
You did a good effort.
There we go. Thank you.
Pleasure. It's super nice to be here.
I'm glad you're here with us and sharing your journey. And the old thing to say is all this new technology, 100 years from now, someone's going to find this. It's there forever, they say, and you're going to help someone in the future. So that's awesome.
The hope.
Yeah. All right. So I'm really interested with the car accident with the undiagnosed brain injury, but I understand bad relationships. Sometimes we're not that smart when we meet people. Love is blind, and then we allow things. I understand the obesity. I can see you've beat that, and alcoholism. So, all right. So it's your journey, your story. You throw us in, Charissa, where you think's best for us, and we'll follow along.
Well, that sounds awesome. Like I say, every time I get the opportunity to share my story, it's a roller coaster, and everything kind of plays into each other. So I usually go back to when I was a teenager. I was a competitive ballerina. I wasn't rail thin, but I was an athletic build. So when I was moving away from being in that small town, I chose to move 7 hours away to a big city and go to school there. I wasn't dancing as much. I also wasn't around the environment that I grew up in. And I grew up in a household that was built on obedience and not really being yourself. So it was just, how do I get through this experience? And I have a lot of love and gratitude for my parents. Looking back as a step parent now, I can see they were doing their best. So what I didn't learn in that situation, life presented me many opportunities for me to learn. So when I was in university, I put on 60 pounds. So for most people, that's not necessarily something monumental, but that was a monumental thing for me. I didn't really know how I got there, and I didn't know who I was when I looked in the mirror anymore. I was really unhappy with the person that I saw, and I really was feeling overwhelmed at how did I get here? And so I tried everything under the sun. I tried the healthy ways of doing things. I tried diet pills. I tried diet clinics, and nothing actually worked. It just made me feel more and more hopeless. While I was going through that experience of being overweight, I was actually training to be a massage therapist. And it wasn't until I graduated from massage school, found the job that I wanted, and I got to stay in Calgary, that things shifted. And our clinic flooded about 2 weeks into me working there. So I had a mandatory 10 days off so that they could fix the flooding that had happened. And I went to my grandparents' house and brought summer clothes and realized none of them fit me anymore. They were too big. And I finally put it together.
The clothes were too big, or you were too big?
No, the clothes were too big for this time.
Where you have lost weight.
I lost 15 pounds without even trying.
Okay. There we go.
right? So I had
That's
tried
good and
everything.
bad. That's good and bad, lose the weight without trying. It's good
Yes.
that it happens, but when you need to figure out why it happened.
Well,
So,
and what I
could be
figured out
it
was,
could be a underlying health issue. Yeah.
luckily it wasn't. It
God,
was
good.
that
Well, thank you.
I wasn't focused on losing weight anymore. I was focused on how I was showing up as a massage therapist. I was
Okay.
showing up in this clinic and building my reputation and showing up for my clients, that my focus was on becoming a better version of myself that way. So I wasn't emotionally eating. I wasn't sabotaging with food. And that's where I put that piece together, that my emotions had created that situation for me to be somebody I didn't recognize anymore, because I didn't grow up with emotional intelligence. So then this is when I started learning about it, is that how I feel about myself uh, is how I treat myself. So now that I was feeling better about myself and my career, I was treating myself better. And I wasn't needing to numb and do all of those things. I was actually able to show up and live a life that I was very proud of. And so that was one of the things that led me to shifting into making healthier choices. I started going to the gym. I hired a trainer because I had no idea what I was doing. Ballet class is very different than a weight room, and just starting to build on healthier habits. The side effect with that, though, is I wasn't fully integrated on the emotional piece yet. So I knew that my emotions had an impact on things, but I didn't realize I was still trying to avoid the emotions that I felt from really not having my own identity. I was still trying to people please and do everything that I learned how to do as a young kid
I
as
was
an
going to
adult.
I was going to ask that with I mean, I imagine you got to be very disciplined with the ballerina and to keep that weight down. And yeah, so you're having to, like say, people please, but it's doing what you have to do to be in that situation. And you got to follow the rules, play the game, everything else. And that became your habit.
Yeah. And it wasn't just in dance class, it was also in the household I grew up in. So
Yeah.
I was the middle kid. I was the good kid. I got the good grades. I was the one that behaved properly. I wasn't out gallivanting and doing those things. So there was a number of areas that it was reinforced. And then as I got older, it took a while for me to realize that that wasn't actually a way forward. It was what I had developed in myself in order to safely navigate what I had experienced in my younger years. So then when I stopped using food, I started using alcohol. And it was like I was feeling more confident in myself because I felt better about how I looked, but I wasn't confident in making new friends or being out in social settings. And so I hadn't drank before the age of 23. I wasn't something I wanted to do, but when I was now an adult in Calgary, it was something where I'm like, this is what we do. This is how we socialize. And again, it goes back to the household I grew up in. There, any reason was a reason to drink. And so I didn't have that understanding that when I'm drinking, it might also be because I'm trying to avoid something, not
Now,
because I'm having fun.
when you were growing up and doing
Yeah.
the ballerina thing, like you said, in your household was drinking going on, but you just didn't. You didn't participate because you were so young, but it was there. So
Yeah.
you, I mean, you saw it growing up. That, like you said, this is the way to socialize and whatever.
Yeah.
Okay,
If
so
you have it,
it's not like it was a new experience at 23, and you go, "Wow, I didn't know you could drink now."
no.
You knew it as a young age that it was a possibility. You just didn't do it till later.
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and I grew up in a small town, so there was underage drinking all the time. So I saw the negative impacts of it. Of, people would come back to school on Monday and somebody had peed on their cousin or made out with their cousin because everybody was drunk at a party.
Wow.
And
I thought
so
that only
not
happened in the south of, Tennessee and Alabama is what I thought. I'm kidding, people, I'm kidding. Alright, you know
no.
the jokes they talk about like that. Alright, the kissing cousins and stuff. Alright, go ahead. Alright, yeah.
Yeah, Northern Alberta is very similar. But and the household, like if everybody was excited, they would celebrate. Everybody come for a drink. If you're having a tough day, you had a drink to take the edge off. So, drinking was very common.
Mhm.
But again, it was something that I didn't fully understand because first of all, I pushed it away and never was a part of it. And then when I did embrace, okay, I didn't know that you needed to have guidelines about it. I didn't know the impacts of it. So I wasn't really making an informed choice about it. And it took me getting a DUI to actually really understand the
There you go.
implications of it. And
Yeah.
luckily, I didn't hurt anybody. I had only put myself at risk. And I went through the process I had to sit in front of my ethics board because I'm a professionally licensed person. So I had to atone for my choices and really look at what am I doing with my life? What am I avoiding in life that this is the thing that I'm choosing to do? And like, thankfully, these are the lessons life has been presenting me with when I haven't been learning them on my own. It's like, okay, here you go. We're going to yell at you now instead of just whispering. What do you need to really reevaluate in order to make a positive impact in life instead of just surviving with survival mechanisms that I had grown up with? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like just before the DUI is when I had my car accident. And it was in the middle of the day. There was no drinking involved. It was the middle of the day at work for me, and I was going out to go Christmas shopping. And there was an older lady who blew through a stop sign doing 60 kilometers an hour. Pardon the Canadian. I don't know what that is in
Yeah,
miles.
you talked to this kilometers, and we talked Celsius earlier.
Yeah.
We is, I used to teach science, like I said, so I used to be able to calculate all that. I don't do it anymore, but I tell people it's awful strange that we as American claim we're the best country and everything, but we're like one of two countries that don't use the metric system. And what I taught the metric system, it was so much easier than the old English stuff. And so I don't know why we're not permanently in it. We should be.
Maybe
So
one day.
well, it's been going on for what, how many years now? I remember when I was in the sixth grade, they're talking about how this is coming and we need to start preparing. And that was sixth grade, and that was 1977, something like that. And we still hadn't. Now, our science, our
Yeah.
research, they use all that. But for us, we should be there. We should be in there with it. So, all right, I'm sorry. I'll get off my soapbox on that, but go ahead. So,
That's all right. So the accident happened and I was going north and I ended up by going south in the wrong direction and my airbags went off. So it was a fairly traumatic event. And I was able to walk away from it though. But during the interaction, my brain hit my skull in 3 different places. And it was from that point, I didn't feel like myself. I went to the hospital and I got checked out. They did some imaging. They couldn't really find anything, but it was 3.5 years of me saying, like, there's something wrong with me. I can't remember my name by the end of the day. I know what it was up here, but I couldn't get it out.
yeah.
I became a jerk. I used to be very patient and calm and could put up with a lot of things. And now there was an abruptness. If you say,
I've
Carissa,
been
we're going to
told I'm a
wear,
jerk every day. So,
yeah. But, and
go
like,
ahead.
my memory went from being like an elephant, remembering all the wonderful
Yeah.
details to the smallest thing to
Yep.
remembering 3 weeks after I needed it. Like I
Yeah.
have
You
to
have
write
like a
everything down.
foggy memory, foggy thing,
Yeah.
it masked it, or I guess. So,
It goes in, it gets filed in a file that says somewhere, and then I remember it after I needed it. So if I didn't write stuff down, then it would always get forgotten. So
yeah, I told people I got it locked in. It just sometimes I forget the combination and get it back out.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. All
And
right.
it took me going, I went to an orthopedic surgeon because that was the next referral. And he's like, well, tell me about your back pain. I'm like, I can deal with my back pain. What I can't deal with is what my brain is doing. And so he sat me down and did a concussion test on me. And he's like, you have a concussion. How did nobody catch this? But because it was 3 years down the road from when it happened, all of the damage that was there was irreversible.
Mm,
So I
okay.
finally at least felt less crazy. I'm like, okay, I know how to move forward. And then I could grieve that life that I had beforehand because I knew I had to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't keep trying to be Carissa prior to the accident because that version of me didn't exist anymore. I was just trying to keep it alive. So that was that point where I need to figure out how to live life like I am now and go forward for here. What am I creating?
Now, did that? I'm assuming it affect your massage therapist
To a
work.
degree.
Work. Okay.
To I just had to be much better at putting my notes down immediately. Like I couldn't
Okay,
wait
okay,
until the evening to write stuff. So it's a lot more of it was my temperament and a lot of it was my short-term memory.
okay.
And so it luckily on the grand scale of things, it was more of a wake-up call than it was a rerouting of my life and my
Mm,
career at that point. I was still able to show up as a massage therapist, run my practice, and do all of that. Not a problem. It was just how I managed the day became a lot more structured and
mhm.
very much if I don't write it down, then it's not going to happen.
Yep.
So just really detail oriented with like client notes or getting back to people. I had checklists now, whereas before I'm like, oh, I could mentally look and be like, oh yes, I still have these things to do. But if I didn't have my list, I go into a grocery store. I'm like, I need 6 things and I can remember one. So all I'm gonna get is one.
I gotta
It just
get everything in every aisle, one of everything, because I can't remember what I need. So, let me ask
yeah.
this, question here. Now that the doctor has diagnosed a concussion and whatever's happening 3 years later, it's irreversible and everything, are they somewhat concerned or worried the future about dementia or possible Alzheimer's, anything like that?
No, when I tried to
Okay,
go see neurologists, they wouldn't actually touch me. They're like, you're too complicated. It's been too long.
I hear
Figure it
that about
out.
most women. They're too complicated. So, okay, so they wouldn't work with you for, okay, all right.
No.
So, I got a coaching buddy of mine, Rick. We coached together for years, and I noticed one day when he wanted to remember something, he'd always write it in his little note and he put it in his pocket. And I finally one day I said, Rick, why are you writing that down, man? And he said, we're just going to happen here in 30 minutes. And he pulls out his pocket and he had like 10 other things he'd written down. And he says, if I don't write it down at the end of the day, I won't remember when and he was a teacher
Yeah.
like that. But yeah, so I understand what you're talking about the short term. Yeah, because he always write down and puts it so he would remember later
Yeah.
on what needs to be done. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a structure I've taught. I have 2 stepsons now. So it's a structure that I've taught them. I'm like, if I have to get you deodorant or body wash or things like that that I'm not keeping track of, but you are, you have to write it on a sticky note and it sits at my place at the table so that I know it needs to be addressed. I'm like, if you verbally tell me, it won't work. And they've forgotten a couple of times. They're like, oh, I told you about that. I'm like, did you write it down?
Yeah, yeah.
And they're
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. There was this
oh,
movie, I can't remember. I saw it probably 20 years ago, and it was about this guy. I can't remember exactly what happened to him, but when he'd go to bed, wake up the next day, he started the day all over as the day before.
yeah,
He had no clue who he was other than living the day. Then when he went to bed, his mind just erased and had
yes,
to do it all. And so ended up being his ex-wife. She ended up divorcing him, but became still good friends with him. So she would put out posting notes on you've already done this. This needs to be taken care of today. This is whatever today is. And he learned every morning to look for the posting notes
yeah.
from there. And I'm thinking, wow, I'd hate to think that I go to sleep and I've erased everything, got to start all over every day. Wow. So, all right, I'm
Yeah.
sorry I jumped off the gun a little bit, but it just what your story is just amazing. That yeah, you're having to relearn to do everything that's best possible for you, and not only that, everybody around you. Yeah, you got to write that down because I'm not going to remember it.
Yeah,
So,
and that's the thing they say when there's a brain injury. And again, the severity of mine is marginal compared to somebody like that
oh yeah,
forgets their entire life, right?
yeah, yeah,
But it's like when one person in the family has a brain injury, the whole family has a brain injury because it does change the ecosystem of how things operate. And I've had to explain it's not that it's not important to me. And like
yeah,
luckily we're in the thick of being in adolescence. So I'm like, you know how you go to bed and you forget what went on yesterday? They're like, yeah, it's annoying. I'm like, that's how I live every day. So I'm like,
yeah,
you're getting a little tiny glimpse of what life is like for me every day. I'm like, luckily you're gonna grow out of this. And
yeah,
so
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like,
You know how you
it's
forget, but then you remember an hour later. Yeah,
yeah,
I don't get that hour later.
exactly. It's also teaching them to have a little bit of grace for me because
Yeah, mm-hmm.
I look normal. I look like I don't have anything wrong with me, and that's
What's
one of the
normal?
toughest things,
What's
right?
normal, right? You
It's
know?
a setting on a dryer.
There you go, it's right. Hey, that's a good answer. Good answer,
Yeah,
alright.
yeah,
I'm gonna make a T-shirt out of that. That's nice. What's
yeah,
normal? The setting in the dryer. So, that's
exactly.
good. Okay, go ahead.
But there like, when you have something that looks like an invisible injury, there is no grace.
Mm,
People just, think you're a particular way or put a label on you. And you're just expected, so it becomes something that I have to manage other people's expectations as well as managing my brain every day. So it's been a really wonderful way to give them a little bit of a glimpse. I'm like, I am so excited this is not your reality, because it's not something I wish on anybody. It is a
oh, no, no,
challenge.
yeah. Now how many years ago was that? How
Uh,
long you been doing this new process?
11 years. Well, I
Okay.
was diagnosed 3.5 years before that. So about 8 years that I've really realized a system and how to navigate it and how to explain it. And then the points where you can't explain it because your brain is having a tantrum and you just have to hold everything back.
Mhm. Oh, wow, okay. This is it's
Yeah.
just remarkable. I'm like the other doctor, I don't say how they didn't catch a concussion. I would think even in the airbag, you're still banging your head, that'd be the first thing we're looking for is concussions, I
Yeah.
would think. But I'm not in that medical arena, so, there, but I would thought that would have been a protocol. So
It's something that, because I'm in the massage field, it's something I tell every client that I've seen that's had any form of car accident or sports thing, because the old research about it is your brain is the consistency of butter at room temperature on a counter when you're alive. When
mhm.
you're dead and they study it, it's a lot harder and drier. So the previous understanding about it was misinformed because the consistency is different while you're alive. So I pretty much tell people, I'm like, go prove me wrong. Go get checked out for a concussion and come back and tell me I'm wrong. Because 99% of the time in a car accident, there is actually a level of concussion that happens. But people don't think that because they didn't hit their head, that there is a concussion. I'm like, all your brain has to do is hit your skull. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
That's all it is. Because a
Yeah, it's
concussion
not
is a bruise.
yeah, it's not that you have to hit anything, it's the certain jerk and stop and the brain floating around in that fluid and just slams against the bone. Yeah, that's it, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. See, I told
Right.
you I was a teacher taught science. See?
Yeah. There's
Alright.
Newton's law, and object in motion stays in motion till it meets an equal or opposite force. Your
That's
brain in
right.
motion hitting your skull in different directions is
Oh,
gonna be an opposite
you're
force.
trying to teach some science. Alright. Alright, good deal. So,
Yeah,
alright, so let's, move on. Bad relationships.
yeah.
Is that during this time with your brain fog, or you were younger before you're drinking at 23 and you made bad decisions, or the drinking came along with the bad relationships? So what got
It's
you?
it's a mix. So when I was younger is when I had one of my first serious relationships. I was 16 when we met, and we dated until I was 20. And he was 2 years older than me. And there was times where he's like, "Oh, I wish you would just grow up." And I'm like, "But I'm always gonna be 2 years younger than you in my development." We have different family dynamics, different religious dynamics, and it was a lot of just not valuing who I was as a person. But because
Mhm.
I was a people pleaser,
The
I was
younger, yes,
always
the younger age, yeah.
yeah, I was always looking to, if I'm really good to a person, then they'll be good back to me, and like externally validating myself that way. And it didn't work. And because I didn't have such a good sense of my own identity or a safe relationship, right? I gave up my authenticity as a kid to be attached to the parents. And that showed up in my relationships because I would be around people who were, emotionally abusive, or people who treated me poorly or treated me as an option while I was fully invested in the situation, that I would lose myself every time because I always thought, okay, I have to give more, do more, be more for this person, and that'll be enough for them to come back and love me. But
And
what I was doing was just
never
repeating
enough.
the pattern. No.
Yeah, it's never
And
enough, yeah.
yeah, and it took like the last time before I met my now husband, it was a relationship where the person was seeing somebody else and then just filling the gap with me. And when I figured that out, I'm like, oh, okay, this is a problem. And I literally sat down and I went through every relationship because I'm like, the common denominator is me. So what did I put up with that I shouldn't have? Where did I compromise when I shouldn't have? Where did I not compromise when I should have? And what are my hard no's and hard yeses? Like, where am I in this? And
That's a
so
bunch
when
of
I
good
started,
questions for yourself. That's good.
yeah, but it was like it's the only way I knew how to process it because I'm a very logical mind, and so I'm like, okay, so I have accountability in this. What did I do in every relationship, in every capacity, so that I'm ready for the next version of what actually love is instead of what it's not? Because now I am asking the right questions. I am being accountable for my part, both in the positive and negative aspect of it, and looking at this is something I want to build. This other person is not going to complete me. So, what do I need to be whole and feel validated without somebody else needing to fill that role? And I spent 6 months really invested in all of this. And I was never angry at the other people. It was always looking for, okay, what role did I play? And then honoring the fact that I'm like, you need to forgive yourself for allowing to be used, allowing to be taken advantage of, and all of those things. Because by me being in that relationship with that person past that point, I allowed that. I agreed to that. And that's what I put up with. I
That's a
don't put up
powerful
with
little message. A powerful little message you just said. We're brought up that someone
yeah.
does wrong to us, and we need to forgive them so they're not living what's called rent free in our mind because we just keep holding on to grudge or whatever. Need to forgive them. Wait a minute. Okay. We also need to forgive ourselves for those stupid decisions we made. Okay. Or a decision may have been good, but the outcome was bad because the environment we have no control over. And my example on that is say you're going to ballerina, okay, practice or performance, and you get hit by a drunk driver. You had the
Mhm.
right decision to do the right thing. Now you suffer the consequence because somebody else is drinking and driving. Okay. And so we need to forgive them for that and forgive ourselves, not beat ourselves up. Well, if I wouldn't have had ballerina, if I didn't have that performance today, if I'd had, and then you're beating yourself. No, I had the right decision. Forgive myself for that.
Yeah.
Now let's do the best we can. So that's powerful because again, we're taught to forgive others. I don't ever remember my family telling me, forgive yourself. And I've had
Yeah.
to learn that. Yeah.
It's something everybody needs to learn
Yes.
because you're the person that you live with for your whole life. So if you're going to sit there and be angry at yourself for your whole life, it's an internal fight that creates so much resistance and takes away from life. We have no idea how long we get. There's an invisible little egg timer above our heads that's counting down, and we will never know when our time is up. And so by forgiving ourselves, we're creating that peace. It doesn't mean that the thing did not happen. It means that you're taking the lesson from it. Because even the example of me being on my way to ballet class, I chose to get in the car and go to ballet class that day. So the fact that I got in an accident, I'm responsible for that because I chose to be where I was. And now I can look at it. What lesson is that trying to show me? Because I believe life is always trying to talk to us and trying to show us. And sometimes we need to be screamed at by big things happening and changing the trajectory of your life because you weren't listening to the small things where there was resistance before. And it's like, no, I just got to be gritty and move through it. It's like, if there's so much resistance, maybe it's time to step back and be like, what am I trying to force? Is this in alignment with who I'm meant to be, how I want to live my life, or am I just going for external success or something that somebody said I should do or things like that? Really evaluating what choices are you actually making in your life and are they from what you desire to do and create, or is it from what somebody else is saying that is right for you?
Yeah. You're sitting there, you gave a lot of stuff right there. And I was sitting there trying to process. Now I forgot what I was going to say, but, yeah, but you're head on that, we don't know when that timer is going to count down per se. Okay. But a lot of it's life is the best teacher in school, school of life.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so with our experience, and yes, we're going to make the great decision some days. Some days we're going to make a good decision. We're going to come to the fork in the road in life, and we're going to go left when we should have done right. And again, process it, do the best you can, make the outcome the best you can make from it, and get back on track. And just have to,
Yeah.
too many people think I did the wrong thing 50 years ago, and they would keep beating themselves up instead of going, yeah, I goofed up the DUI you made. Okay.
Yep.
It could happen. I got a friend that got a DUI 50 years ago, and he'll still throw it in his own face and why he can't get a job or something, that's 50 years ago, has nothing to do about today, you know. So yeah, forgive yourself and just do the best you can. Surround yourself with a bunch of people that has your best interest to be the best person you can be. And again, you have to be in their group to help them be the best they can be.
Yeah. It's about how you show up. Like your friend that had a DUI 50 years ago, he is shaming himself. I'm a bad person because I made this choice. It's like, no, two things can be true at the same time. And this is something that I struggled with. I made a bad choice. That does not mean I am a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
I
That's
am
right.
still a good person. I made a bad choice. So those are both true at the same time. Now, the question is, what next from that choice? Am I just going to sit here and be that person who made a bad choice and I'm just going to focus on the bad choice, which will just actually make you create worse choices from there? Or do I say, I made a bad choice? How do I prevent making the same choice? What degree do I need to change in the path that I'm on in order for that to be not an inevitable thing anymore? But in order for it to become less and less likely, because I'm taking active actions to come away from that because I'm a good person at heart, that was a poor decision in that moment. So you're coming back to who you truly are because I believe all people are good people. Sometimes we just make a series of really bad choices, but you can always come back to who you truly are. You just have to be willing to let go and be like, I forgive myself for that choice, and I am going to take the actions to live differently. But it requires ownership and action to be able to move.
Take accountability for your actions and move forward. Now, I just as talking here for 32 minutes and 47 seconds, 48 seconds, 49 seconds. Never mind. Okay. I could tell you got a strong, powerful mind, positive and everything like that. I could tell it from here, whether you got to write it down to remember it or not. But what I want to ask you is here, let me give you an example. That friend of mine that got his DUI years ago, he grew up in a bad family, basically. Not that his family was
Mhm.
bad; they were just poor. His grandparents raised him, and they were just poor. Not that they were bad; they didn't do anything bad. Just he
Yeah.
just grew up, so he had that low self esteem and thinking this is the way life has got to be. His grandfather, he worked his butt, but then he'd go spend it gambling and bring them home a sandwich, after work. That's the way he was brought up. One day, now here's where I'm getting to. One day in Tennessee, the big Powerball had gotten to the first time, and you're talking 20 years ago, first time it got to $500 million, 500 million bucks. First time. All right. Now
Yeah.
I'm getting to the question here. This friend of mine, he says, man, did you see that Powerball, how much it's up to? I said, yeah, man, I'd love to get that. He said, I would too. But if I won it, 500 million, if I won it, they would take my food stamps away from me.
Hmm.
Food stamps. That was his thinking because that's why he's brought up being poor. You keep what you got because you don't know if you ever get it. And I said to him, I said, man, you could live off half a billion dollars, that you need less than $200 in food stamps. And that was his. Now, when I'm getting to it, the question is, I could tell your mindset is strong. Do you think it come from the young, discipline, being the ballerina thing, or just from the discipline of it, or did you have to develop that to be this strong?
It's something I've developed. It is absolutely something I developed. Like being disciplined in dance class is one thing, but the way that I live my life now is completely opposite to how the rest of my family lives. And we're doing different things with my husband and my two stepsons because their mom unexpectedly passed away before I'd ever met them. So we are rewriting the patterns of our life, how we interact as people, and that comes from me being accountable every day and showing up every day and doing the opposite. Like I grew up in a household where people were beat with wooden spoons, hot sauce shoved down your mouth if you spoke in a way that was
Oh,
unacceptable.
wow. Okay, okay.
You got your door taken away if you slammed it. Like I grew up in a household that was very toxic.
Toxic. We both said toxic.
Yeah.
Okay. And now that it helps me understand more that, yeah, you had to develop this
Yeah.
new mindset so you're not infested with what you came up with.
Yeah. And
I
that
mean,
like it is
were you disciplined if your ballerina didn't go exactly the way they would want it?
I beat myself up.
You did. Okay, not
I did.
necessarily family, but you
No.
did yourself. Okay.
Like, I was the student that would come home with a 97% and cry myself to sleep because it wasn't 100. Like,
Oh,
I
shoot, if
set
I come on with
stand
a 97% on anything, my mom would say, "Who'd you cheat off of?"
right? But,
Shit,
like,
I'm kidding. Alright, go ahead.
that's what I learned, though, is because I learned that achievement created
You were just
that
so disciplined
success.
on yourself, so strong that you expect this perfect person,
Yep.
again, to be in that people pleasing in the family.
Yes, because that's what kept
Wow,
it
okay.
safer,
Yeah, yeah,
right? So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah. Kept
I'm
the hot sauce
actively
out of your mouth and
Yep.
kept the wooden spoon, okay. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, you've definitely helped explain some stuff for me, I appreciate
yeah.
sorry I brought that in for you
No,
to bring up, but
no.
that explains a
It
lot to us.
It's a
Okay.
part of my experience. So it's something that I didn't really look at how I was parented because I knew I didn't wanna have my own children.
Yeah.
And so then when life brought me my husband and the fact that he has 2 children, then I've actually had to start looking at the parent wounds that I have because I don't want them to experience things. Like the mantra I
There
have
you
for the
go.
boys is that they're safe to make mistakes. We don't spank them. We don't have violent consequences for them. We have open discussions. We have open parameters. We have a lot of transparency, but also I tell them all the time, like, I don't know how to relate. I was taught to be compliant. So the fact that you're not doing your chores right now, I would be in big trouble. So I'm like, I don't really know how to navigate this. I'm going to have to go away and come back because I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know,
I don't wanna relive my life, but I don't want you to experience my life. So if we can meet in the middle, if you pick up some, to make it a
yeah,
little easier on me to understand. So,
yeah.
okay.
Well, and it's been a really good period of growth, learning those things too. So
Yeah.
like
Oh,
how
yeah.
I am now is very much what I've curated and developed because I'm looking at it and like, I don't want to be the pattern my mom repeated. Right. So she came from an abusive household as well. So it's like, I'm going to
Yep.
break that cycle.
Yes.
It's not easy because the nature that I grew up in was a yelling, screaming, tit for tat kind of household. So I actively have to work against that because that's my first instinct is to yell, scream, jump, shame. But now I'm like, nope, not like that. We do this. And I have to show my brain where I'm going because that pathway is so ingrained from how often it happened and how I acted for a period of time in my life because I didn't realize I was just repeating a pattern that was ingrained in me. And
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
anybody can actually change. It's just really being accountable like, hey, I'm acting like my mom. Of course, I'm going to act like my mom. She is the one that taught me these things in my 0 to 7 years. So instead of being like, well, I'm not going to be like her, it's like, no, I am like her. So what do I need to do to move away from that? Because I know my first instinct is going to act like that. And it's really just being aware. It's like, if you're left handed, you're not going to try and keep grabbing things with the right hand. You're like, okay, I'm left-handed, so I have to write differently, or the page has to be different, or I'm mindful of the pen I'm using, so I'm not smudging things all the time and getting mad at the pen. It's finding where that thing is in you and how do I do this in a way that feels better to me? Because I know that this is where my brain will naturally go if I'm not being conscious.
So how long you been married with the kids?
3 years.
3 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
well, congratulations
Thank you.
with that, and being a ready-made family with mom. So that's good. Um, sorry they lost their mom at a
Yeah.
younger age. Sorry about that. They had to experience that. So, but glad. But just listen to you. I don't know. They may get frustrated writing the little notes to remind you. They may go, "We just still don't understand." But as they get older, they're going to understand it. And
Yeah.
but again, I can just tell with your demeanor, your personality, your mindset that you're only good for them. So, and the husband. So, what's the husband name? We'll get his name out here.
His name is Tyler.
Tyler. Hey, Tyler. Man, you're lucky. Okay, from there. So, no, this has been amazing listening. I mean, I've heard a lot with concussion. I used to be an athlete and stuff, and heard a lot, but I don't know if I heard much about 3 years later, someone finally saying that's your problem right there,
Yeah.
and finally diagnosed. I know a lot now here in the States is that CTE, where the
Yeah.
football players are beating themselves up and all them concussions all these years. And we've had in the last 15 years, I don't know, 3 or 4 football players, retired or not, and they'll suicide, and
Yeah.
they'll do it in a way that they can people can study their brain. They don't
Yeah.
do anything to affect their brain uh, from there. So they're still learning.
Yeah.
So, but
There's a
I'm glad they was able to find that to help you understand and to be able to develop a plan to make it so you can still have a good life.
Yeah. It's just finding what works and like again understanding this is something cuz post concussive syndrome is what a lot of the football players actually have too is that they've had massive concussions that have been unnoticed.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the same thing that I fight with. I could wake up one day and it could be gone. Or this could be something that progressively gets worse. But it's realizing, okay, I just have to manage my stress is one of the biggest things I've noticed for the trigger is that the more calm I am, the less issue the brain has. It just has the remembering stuff. But the more stressed I am, the more it has flare ups, trauma, like forgetting words, and
But I
just
got you.
different things like that, where it becomes way more triggered and it's reactive and there's a lot more to it. So,
For us that don't have the concussion like you and have trouble bringing out some words or whatnot or remembering, um, we say we've had a brain fart.
yep.
So that's we'll blame it on that, then determine it's something else later on. So,
Yeah.
um, this be probably the last question here, but when do you think how old do you think you may have been when you finally said, like you said, you had to develop this mindset to be more positive, more stronger? What 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 do you think attribute to that? Something bad happened, you said, like you were talking about evaluating your relationships. What did I give into? What I shouldn't have given into? So when do you think and what do you think caused this development to start?
Well, I've been doing self development since I was 19. But I would say about that time that I was doing the relationship evaluation was just before I was 33. And it was then because I'm just like, how do I want my life to feel?
Hmm.
Right? I'm not in control of what happens in my life. I'm just in control of how I respond to it and what I'm doing every day to create towards a life that I'm proud of or away from it. And so that's when I started really taking the reins and being like, okay, I know I can't control anything but myself. And even that, there's external things like I couldn't control getting the brain injury, but I can control how I show up every day and what I'm choosing to focus on because what you focus on expands. So it's like I could look at all the things that are going wrong. I could look at all the things that have failed, but my brain hasn't ever really let me look at that for a way to be victim mentality. It's always like, how do I make this better? How do I want to live my life? And just really being unapologetically myself and defining what works best for me. And
Yeah,
it's
that's the main thing, to find out which works best for you, because not everything is going to work best for everybody. So
no,
you can get the example, you can try it, but if it's not working for you, find a different way that could be similar, just altered a little bit. That's best
yep,
for you. Like, you say, uh, you have little stuff written down, to remind you, well, I'm in a wheelchair. I don't know if you know it. I got my neck broke playing football, and my
yep,
fingers don't work good. So if I was to write something down, I'd never be able to reread it. So I have to either record it if it's
yep,
that important. I want to make sure I remember it. Um, Type it up on the computer. Something that I can go back and reread it. So that would be my alter to the writing. So
yeah.
uh,
It's
no, go
it's
ahead.
taking the principle and then using it the way that you need it.
Exactly.
Right? Because the core behind it still works for anybody. It's just there's 8 billion people in this world. There's 8 billion perspectives and 8 billion ways of doing things. So if the way that Chris is doing it doesn't exactly work for you, but you like the pillar of it, find your iteration of it and give yourself permission to create something. You're like, okay, I like that, but this would work better. Okay, cool. That's your version of doing it. And then you just embrace doing it because it's like, the value in that pillar is still there. It just doesn't have to just be one way. And when people give themselves permission to be able to be like, I'm going to make that my own, then that helps them start claiming their life back instead of trying to fit into somebody else's box.
Yeah, and also with that, and as you get more comfortable, you can share with someone else that may be struggling. Hey, this is how I did it, and
Yeah.
then they may come up with a different way that you never even thought of.
Yes.
And, so it's like you said, there's 8 billion different ways to do it. It depends on how our minds is working at that time and how we can adapt it. So
Yeah.
I tell you what, you've been a blessing to me. Listen, I tell people selfishly, I get fired up and motivated because I interview y'all first before this actually gets out on the podcast, unless
Yeah.
somebody comes in live while we're on YouTube and Facebook, which we had one in earlier. So selfishly though, I get motivated first. So and
That's awesome.
but you have definitely, yeah, you definitely been a blessing to me hearing the story and opening it up a little bit, uh, 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 to give us a journey on where you went from and up to today. And I tell you what, you're a blessed woman, and I'm glad that we've got to meet.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate the platform that you're creating for people to have a place to go change their lives.
We do our part. That's about it. So, all right, Charissa, believe, man, I just amazed at your journey, how well it's come. I'm just pleased for you. So, hey, go ahead and give people your social media, how to get hold of you, any programs, any courses or anything you may got going on. Go ahead and give it out here.
So the best place to catch me is on Instagram at Charissa Halonen. I'm in the process of redoing my mindset community. So people can come. It's a self-paced community, small subscription fee. And then we do one live call a month to be able to help people and like bring your questions, right? Everybody's got their things that they're struggling with. There is not a person out there that doesn't have something that they're struggling with. And sometimes not everybody feels comfortable to share it with the people they're closest to. Sometimes in a group of strangers, you feel a bit more anonymous, and then that's where you get to go and change life. So that's all being relaunched in 2026. And I'm really excited to start sharing that with people so that they have that extra support. And yeah.
Good deal. I'm excited for y'all to get this going to helping other people. I'm big on the pay it forward. I'm big on
Yes.
that one. So, all right, Charissa, hey, I appreciate you being here. You've definitely, again, like I said, I'll mention again, been a blessing that I got to hear this and witness it, your journey. So, hey, we know there's people hurting and struggling today. If you can leave us with a positive message, that'd be awesome.
So one of the things that I love sharing with people is that your life can change in an instant, which means this very instant right now could be that moment that life changes for you. And it's allowing that belief to be true and then taking the next right action that comes to you in order to change your own life. It does not have to be expensive. It does not have to be perfect or beautifully orchestrated. It's that decision to change and then taking one little step to do so.
And then look back and see how that one step has put you where you are a year from now. So, yeah, you're definitely right. Life could change in an instant. From it could be bad, it could be good, but that bad could become good depending on how you view your outcome and how everything works out. And Zig Ziglar, I'm paraphrasing. He says having a positive mind doesn't mean you get everything or whatever in life, but it means you have a better opportunity than someone with a negative mindset. So I was
Absolutely.
paraphrasing. So, all right. Hey, I appreciate you, Chris, for coming on. And be sure to tell husband Tyler I said, hey, all
I will
right.
do so.
All right. Hey, everybody else, here's someone to use. This has been a good one, good one, good one. So share that with someone. I'm Dr. James Perdue, the professor of perseverance. You done got me with this brain fart going on, Carissa. Do something today, tomorrow, something next week that's going to help you persevere past your paralysis.